Welcome to the Deep Dive, your essential shortcut to truly understanding the complex forces shaping our world. And wow, what a week it's been at the global tech arena. We've seen some pretty monumental strategic moves unfolding.
Absolutely. Both the US and China are clearly laying down significant markers in this race for AI dominance. It's a dynamic that's, shaping the future right now, and it's far more than just who builds the fastest chip.
Exactly. This isn't just about impressive apps or gadgets. It feels like a profound strategic contest, a battle over, well, national trajectories, and the very blueprint for global tech leadership. What happens now really will set the course for generations, won't it?
It really will.
And just to give you a sense of how immediate this is, consider what really triggered this deep dive for us. Just a few days back, July 23rd, 2025, President Trump's administration rolled out its Artificial Intelligence Action Plan, a pretty clear policy roadmap aimed squarely at ensuring U.S. AI leadership.
And China's response was, well, immediate and definitive, just 3 days later, July 26, over at the World Artificial Intelligence Conference in Shanghai. Chinese AI companies announced they were setting up two significant new industry alliances, most notably the Model Chip Ecosystem Innovation Alliance.
The alliances. Okay, so that's key here. This doesn't sound like just a reaction, does it? It feels more like a deliberate, maybe well-orchestrated move to really accelerate building a fully domestic, self-reliant AI ecosystem in China.
Precisely. It's all about significantly reducing their dependency on foreign tech, especially American technology. It's a foundational shift, and, many analysts are calling it. They're saying it sets the stage for a real head-to-head test of technological sovereignty.
Okay, so our mission today is to pull out the key stuff from all of this material. We're going to unpack the big strategies, pinpoint some of the maybe surprising hurdles both sides are facing, and highlight some really clever workarounds we're seeing. Hopefully, you'll get a much clearer, more informed picture of what's truly going on behind those headlines and, what it actually means for the world. All right, so we've set the immediate scene with those rapid-fire announcements. Let's kind of zoom out a bit now. How do China's latest moves fit into their longer-term game? Something rooted in initiatives like Made in China 2025, MIC 2025.
MIC 2025, yes. That goes back a ways. 2015 it was announced. It was China's big industrial policy blueprint aimed at achieving self-sufficiency in key tech areas. And here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, quite surprising for many. Despite sustained efforts from the U.S. to curb this program, tariffs, export controls, intense diplomatic pressure.
Right, there was a lot of pushback on that.
A huge amount. Yet a comprehensive analysis from 2024 found something pretty remarkable. An astonishing 86% of its over 260 stated goals were actually achieved.
86%. Wow.
Yeah.
That's staggering. Much more success than many people probably thought possible. Where do they see the most success? Which sectors?
We saw it very clearly in areas like electric vehicles, where China now basically dominates globally. Also, things like advanced robotics, high-speed rail, areas where they haven't just met targets, they've often surpassed them. They've fundamentally reshaped global industries. Now, it's true, some dependencies definitely still remain, particularly in incredibly complex, capital-intensive areas like advanced photolithography.
Right, that's the super complex chip-making tech.
Exactly. Etching those tiny circuits, it's a huge global bottleneck. But their overall achievement rate, it's just a profound demonstration of China's strategic persistence, real resilience, even under immense pressure.
Okay, so building on that MIC 2025 foundation, China clearly isn't, resting on its laurels. We're now seeing this ambitious evolution in their thinking, moving beyond that framework towards what President Xi Jinping started calling, back in September 2023, new quality productive forces. So this isn't just about catching up anymore, is it? It sounds like defining the future. For us, the listeners, what does it mean when a nation tries to actively invent industries that don't even really exist yet?
Yes, that phrase, new quality productive forces, it's been everywhere. It represents a really significant ideological and economic shift. This new strategy goes way beyond just achieving self-sufficiency in existing technologies. The ambition now is to proactively lead innovation in entirely future industries.
Future industries like what specifically are we talking about?
Think about sectors that are, nascent, maybe still largely theoretical, or don't even fully exist commercially yet. Areas like advanced humanoid robots, nano-manufacturing, quantum computing, even cutting-edge stuff like genetic engineering and synthetic biology. It signals a clear strategic pivot, you see, from primarily catching up to proactively defining the next technological frontiers and setting global standards. It's more of a leapfrog strategy, I'd say, rather than just catch up.
And who's coordinating all this? What's the mechanism?
Well, at the heart of this new national system is the Central Science and Technology Commission, the CSTC. This is a newly established, incredibly powerful coordinating body directly under the Chinese Communist Party. Now, its specific operational details aren't fully public, but its role seems clear enough. Set the broad policy direction, provide strategic oversight, and ensure compliance across, well, everyone, ministries, state-owned enterprises, even private companies.
So the CSTC sets the tone. And we've already seen that whole nation effort in action very recently, right? With those new industry alliances we mentioned earlier, like the Model Chip Ecosystem Innovation Alliance, that seems like a direct reflection of this centralized coordination.
Precisely. The formation of the Model Chip Ecosystem Innovation Alliance leaves absolutely no doubt about its intentions. What's truly fascinating and incredibly ambitious about it is its explicit goal to connect the entire technology chain from the foundational chips all the way up to the overarching AI infrastructure and create a truly homegrown, fully integrated alternative to, well, foreign tech stacks.
So who's actually in this alliance? Is it a broad coalition?
It is. It brings together major Chinese AI model developers and chip manufacturers. Members include companies hit by sanctions like Huawei, Biren, and more Threads. All have suffered from U.S. sanctions, cutting off access to advanced American tech. Then there's a second alliance, the Shanghai General Chamber of Commerce AI Committee. That one will focus more on integrating AI into industrial transformation. It includes firms like SenseTime, also sanctioned by the U.S. Minimax, Metax, and Iluvatar Corex.
So pretty comprehensive effort, really a unified push to build out this self-sufficient tech stack from the ground up. And you mentioned this is orchestrated by Beijing, a whole nation effort, so heavy government involvement.
Oh, absolutely. This is way more than just private sector collaboration. It's explicitly orchestrated, led by Beijing. We're talking billions and billions of dollars committed, not just from powerful state-owned enterprises, but significant contributions from private companies, too, and substantial financial backing from local governments across China. And underlining this whole centralized approach, you have state-owned banks like the China Development Bank and the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China playing a really prominent role. They're ensuring consistent, massive capital flow into these initiatives.
Okay, so China's definitely putting immense resources behind this. Serious money. But let's talk about the hard tech itself, especially AI chips. How are they actually navigating these restrictions on the ground?
Well, on the chip front, Huawei is making some significant counter developments. Their new Cloud Matrix 384 system, for instance, uses 384 of their latest 910C chips. And Huawei is even claiming it actually surpasses NVIDIA's cutting-edge GB200 and VL72 system in some key performance metrics.
Surpassing NVIDIA's latest.
Yeah.
That's a really bold claim.
Yeah.
How might they be achieving that? And are there, caveats or skeptical views on that claim?
It is bold, definitely. But what's really crucial here, and it's a direct result of U.S. pressure forcing their hand, is that the main components of Huawei's chips are increasingly being manufactured within China. That allows them to iterate, optimize within their own ecosystem, you see. They're also investing very heavily in RISC-V.
Ah, RISC-V, the open source blueprint.
Exactly. Think of it as a free, customizable instruction set for designing chips. Unlike proprietary designs like ARM or BY86, it gives them more flexibility and control.
Right, helping them move away from being locked into Western software ecosystems like NVIDIA's CUDA platform, which is dominant in AI right now.
Precisely. CUDA is like the operating system for AI chips, powerful, but it creates a lock-in. And look at the numbers. The China RISC-V Industry Alliance had 194 members as of July 2024. That's a huge number. And production. It's estimated that over half of the roughly 10 billion RISC-V chips shipped globally back in 2022 were actually made in China. That's a massive commitment, a very clear indicator of their strategic direction.
Okay, what about the less advanced chips, the mature node ones?
Yeah, China has a recognized strength there. Mature node chips, those produced at 28 nanometers and above. Their share of global production in that segment is expected to grow significantly, from about 31% in 2023 to potentially 39% by 2027. They are planning or building at least 32 large-scale wafer fabs focused on these older processes, which, incidentally, is raising concerns among some analysts about potential oversupply and maybe even dumping of certain chips onto the international market later on.
Dumping? You mean selling them below cost just to grab market share?
Exactly that. Another strategy they're exploring is chiplets. This involves combining multiple, less advanced chip components, ones they can produce domestically, into a single package, making a system that performs sort of like a more advanced chip they can't import. It's more R&D intensive than conventional chip packaging, needs advanced techniques. But most analysts think China is probably unlikely to gain real leadership in chiplets, specifically within the next, say, 5 to 10 years.
And finally, on the chip front, there's always the talent issue, right? It seems
Right.
absolutely crucial for self-sufficiency.
It really is. And China is deeply committed not just to acquiring, but also retaining top-tier talent in these highly specialized semiconductor and AI fields. They've set up very aggressive, well-funded programs like the Excellent Young Scientist Fund and the Quimming Plan. These specifically prioritize recruiting people with overseas experience, those who've trained or worked in leading Western tech hubs. They offer substantial benefits, generous research grants, attractive living allowances, career development support. This influx of talent is crucial, not just for enhancing manufacturing capacity, think transferring that tacit hands-on knowledge and cutting-edge processes, but also for cultivating China's next generation of homegrown semiconductor specialists and AI researchers. It's a multi-level, long-term strategy for building that robust, self-reliant ecosystem.
Okay, so we've explored China's strategy, their persistence, this aggressive build-out. But, every action has a reaction. Let's swing back to the U.S. approach. How effective have these U.S. export controls actually been in practice?
To really get a handle on this, we need to look at the economic tool being used here. The current U.S. export control regime, mainly established during the Biden administration, works through several mechanisms. Fundamentally, it restricts exporting cutting-edge GPUs, the graphics processing units essential for AI, to China. The initial controls back in October 2022 focused on controlling both interconnection bandwidth and raw computing performance.
Okay.
Then, by October 2023, these controls expanded significantly. They closed previous loopholes. They started including even modified or lower spec versions like NVIDIA's A800 and H800 chips. Those were chips specifically designed by NVIDIA with slightly reduced capabilities to comply with the earlier rules, but even those got restricted.
So closing those potential workarounds.
Exactly. And we also see anticipation of future restrictions, possibly extending to things like high bandwidth memory, HBM, and advanced chip packaging techniques. It's all meticulously designed to hinder China's domestic capabilities. Now, this economic tool is clearly powerful, but what's truly striking is the ripple effect, maybe the unintended feedback loop. While aimed at constraining China, these controls have also significantly impacted U.S. firms. It's very much a double-edged sword.
Can you elaborate on the scale of that impact? For U.S. businesses, workers, what are the direct consequences we're seeing?
Indeed, it's significant. An analysis by the New York Federal Reserve estimated a collective loss of a staggering $130 billion in market capitalization for U.S. firms, directly attributed to these export controls. And that isn't just a short-term hit to quarterly profits. This huge financial blow has led to a cascade of negative consequences for American businesses. Things like reduced access to capital, like bank lending, lower profitability, and in some cases, yes, significant job losses within the affected sectors right here in the U.S.
So it really does hit home.
It does, and this presents a critical paradox, doesn't it? While strategically designed to curb China's technological rise, these controls are actually creating significant headwinds for American innovation itself. They're potentially depriving U.S. companies of the substantial revenue they need to fund their own future R&D.
Right. It definitely raises a very real question about the long-term cost of this strategy to U.S. competitiveness itself. Okay, let's shift gears slightly now. Let's talk about China's large language model development, LLMs. How does that compare with what we see in the American market, particularly on the innovation front?
Well, on the innovation side, Chinese firms have shown some really impressive capabilities. For instance, back in January 2025, a company called DeepSeek released its R1 reasoning model. It appeared to demonstrate capabilities competitive with OpenAI's O1.9 model here in the U.S. What made this particularly significant was DeepSeek's claim. They said they'd accomplish this with substantially less computational resource, reportedly training the model for around $5 to $6 million instead of the billions some people had assumed were necessary. That efficiency often comes from, highly optimized architectures or maybe innovative data strategies.
Wow, 5 or 6 million versus billions. That's a huge cost difference.
It really is. However, despite this innovation capacity, China faces what analysts are calling a significant AI implementation gap.
An implementation gap. Okay, what specific hurdles are creating this gap for their LLMs?
Well, there seem to be several key ones. Firstly, the often, let's say, poor performance of these big pre-trained models when you try to apply them to specific industrial tasks. They often just don't translate well without extensive and costly customization. Secondly, there are the high labor and usage costs tied to that fine-tuning process. And thirdly, there's a real difficulty for businesses in just verifying and comparing the effects of the frankly, myriad of different models available, which one actually works best for them. This naturally leads to hesitation and pretty slow adoption rates across industries.
You mentioned this implementation gap. Could you give us maybe some historical context for this?
Hmm.
Have we seen China struggle with broad tech adoption before, even when they've been innovative?
Yes, certainly. Historically, China's diffusion capacity, meaning how widely new technologies actually get adopted across industries, has often trailed behind its innovation capacity. For example, less than 10% of small and medium-sized enterprises in China had initiated significant digitization projects even as recently as 2020. That indicates a kind of systemic challenge in translating research breakthroughs into widespread economic impact. And beyond that, there are structural obstacles too, especially concerning critical infrastructure like cloud computing, which is essential for AI. China's cyber control policies, things like data localization rules, internet censorship, have actually impeded widespread diffusion. They make it difficult for businesses to access services hosted on servers outside China, for instance.
And then there's this unique angle of AI safety in China, isn't there? The Cyberspace Administration of China, the CEC, released standards back in March 2025. And while they're framed as being about AI safety, they seem to clearly align with the party's regime of information control. So safety means something quite different there.
It absolutely means prioritizing the political security of the regime above all else. These standards include systematic risk assessment frameworks, yes, but also very stringent filtering requirements for the data used to train AI models, to remove politically sensitive content before training. The CAC standard explicitly requires testing for violations of core socialist values and ensuring alignment with official party narratives.
Can you give us some concrete examples? How does this actually play out?
Sure. Testing includes things like assessing whether an AI model's response, advocating for, say, universal human rights, could be seen as a threat to state power, or if discussing Taiwan's democratization process is viewed as undermining national unity. We've seen clear examples already. Chatbots from companies like DeepSeek and Zipu AI have given these sort of templated non-answers on sensitive topics like Uyghur cultural exchange programs. Zipu AI's model actually outright stated, and this is quote, "There is no such thing as a democratization process in Taiwan," when it was prompted on the topic.
Wow, that clearly shows those political guardrails in action. Very direct. And it's interesting, there seems to be a recent trend regarding user behavior with these kinds of politically controlled models. DeepSeek's chatbot, for instance, reportedly saw a huge drop, 72% in average monthly downloads in the second quarter of 2025 compared to the first quarter.
Yeah.
What do you make of such a sharp decline like that?
It strongly suggests a pretty significant shift in how these powerful AI tools are being consumed within China. It indicates that while there's a huge amount of innovation happening in developing the foundational models themselves, user behavior might be moving away from just general-purpose chatbots, especially ones with such obvious content restrictions, moving towards more specific, maybe integrated AI applications designed for work or education or other specialized tasks. This divergence in what AI safety means, where China prioritizes political control over broad, open-ended utility, could ultimately lead to the development of fundamentally incompatible AI systems globally. Different paths, different priorities.
So after diving into all these intricate layers, the strategy, the innovation, the alliances, those restrictions, the economic maneuvering, it's clear this is a really rapidly evolving situation with huge global impact.
Absolutely. We've really explored the core tension of this intense tech rivalry today, starting with China's long game, that strategic push for self-reliance, shown by the, frankly, surprising success of Made in China 2025 and that ambitious vision of new, quality, productive forces.
And we cover the critical role of these new industry alliances, like the Model Chip Ecosystem Innovation Alliance, coupled with that massive centralized government backing, all aimed at aggressively driving the build-out of a truly domestic AI chip ecosystem. It's a direct, calculated response to those U.S. export controls, designed specifically to remove points of foreign dependency.
Then we analyzed how those U.S. export controls, while strategically intended to constrain China, have really proven to be something of a double-edged sword. They've led to significant financial tolls on American firms, potentially impacting their own R&D capacity, and perhaps inadvertently they've spurred China towards even greater self-sufficiency and deepened their commitment to indigenous innovation.
And finally, we navigated that complex picture of China's large language model development, where you have this incredible innovation happening in building the actual AI models. But it runs into these unique systemic challenges of diffusion, getting the tech widely adopted across the economy. And it also operates under those very politically driven, distinct standards of AI safety that prioritize regime stability and control above all else. Ultimately, this deep dive really reveals that the global race for AI dominance isn't just about who has the coolest tech breakthroughs. It's a high-stakes, multifaceted game where every strategic move has complex, often paradoxical ripple effects. It's reshaping not just technology, but national sovereignty and global economic power for decades to come. And this has tangible, direct implications for you, the listener, influencing how quickly new technologies emerge, how much they cost, and how widely they actually get adopted around the world.